This is the screencast for the website and project called HIGHA. It's a website where you can interact with people to make new friends. The initial thought was to create a site where you could play games and compete with your friends as well, but due to time issues, this is a feature that could be added in the future. We will now show you a scenario that could happen on the website. We have two users, Isabelle and Cornelia. Isabelle already has an account, so she is able to log in with her existing username and the corresponding password. Isabelle wants to write a message to Cornelia, so she begins to write an entry. At this point, everyone will be able to see what she writes. She makes sure her friends will know the message is from her by writing her name, and then she writes the message. Isabelle then logs out by clicking in the top right corner. Since Cornelia doesn't have an account already, she will have to register to see what Isabelle wanted to say. She follows the directions on the start page that takes her to the register page. She writes her name and email and decides what username and password she wants to have. There is also a fail check that makes sure that the user will not miss a field and that the email is a valid form. When the user is registered, the website will redirect you to the login page. Cornelia then uses the username and password she chose to log in to her profile. The first thing that happens when she logs in is that she is redirected to the page with a newsfeed. She can see that Isabelle has written something but decides to check out her profile page before she answers. When she clicks on her name in the top right corner, the site takes her to her profile. There she can see her name, username, and email. It's also possible for the user to have a profile picture, and because Cornelia is a new user, her profile picture is a default image. She decides to change it and is redirected to a new page where she gets to choose an image from the computer that she uploads. Now it's time to answer Isabelle. She goes to the newsfeed by clicking in the top left corner. She enters her name and replies to the entry created by Isabelle. The new entry will then appear under the existing entries. When this is done, she decides to log out from the website.
Now we will take a closer look at the code behind the website. The application is made up with four major components: MongoDB, Express.js, Angular, and Node.js. We all wanted a closer look at Angular and this combination that is more commonly known as a mean stack application that was recommended by those who had done similar projects. Fortunately, there was plenty of documentation about how to set up a website like this, which made the process slightly easier at first. The structure of the code for the application can be seen here. The file app.js is the file used to start the entire application. We will go into more detail about this in a minute. Then we have four important folders. Routes, that contains the functions for the specific type. Models, that contains the Mongoose schemas that tells you how the specific type is structured. Images, that holds the images used on the website. Most importantly, the profile pictures for each user. And then config, that contains the JS files for the database and passport. We do of course have the Angular folder as well. Here we can see that we have service files for validation, uploading images, creating entries, and the authentication. We have a guard that will protect chosen pages from users that haven't logged in. And finally, we have the different components. This can be seen as the different pages that would make up the website. For example, we have the home page, the profile page, and the page where you log in. If we go back to app.js, this is where we make the connection with a database named TDDD27 The database contains of two collections, users and entries. We implement all necessary middleware. We implement all routes. And we start the server on the chosen port number.
The main feature for the application is the users, so we will show the process of creating and saving them in more detail. The process is then more or less the same for the images and the entries as well. In models we can see the user schema. A user consists of 4 strings, a name, a username, an email, and a password. This is what we need if we go to the component register and look at the HTML file and the TypeScript file. In the HTML file, we use a form to extract the values entered by the user. When the button is clicked to submit the form, we're sent to the function onRegisterSubmit in the TypeScript file. We create a user with the values. We check if all the fields are filled and if the email has a valid email address format. This is done in functions in the validation service. To register the user, we use the authentication service that sends us to the route /register in users. The user is sent to the function addUser in the model file for the user, right where we started. The last step here is to hash the password using bcrypt. The password is encrypted to increase the security. This is then sent back if the user was saved successfully. The process is almost the same for when you, for example, log in, but instead of encrypting the password, you will take the suggested username and password and see if they correspond with any of the existing users. Here we use bcrypt to compare the passwords. The code structure is then the same for the images and the entries. If we now take a closer look at the different components, all the components consist of the same 4 files, 2 TypeScript files, a HTML file, and a CSS file. First of all, there is the navbar, or navigation bar. There is the home page. This is shown as a start page for users that haven't logged in yet. From this page you can either go to the login page or the register page. When you log in, you're redirected to the dashboard that contains all the entries like a newsfeed. The last component is the profile page for a user. From here it's also possible to go to the page where you upload a profile picture. This is most of the important content that can be shown in the code. To summarize this, we are happy with the end result. There have been many bumps in the road, but we do have a working site now at the end. There are of course many features that could be added in the future, but for now we have a page where you can register users, the user can log in and interact with other users. Images can also be uploaded to the page. Thank you for watching this screencast.